January 20th, 2018, Bucks County witnessed what would be the first in a series of protests, marches, and walkouts on issues from guns to science to feminism. Organized by the Bucks County Women's Advocacy Organization and Rise Up Doylestown, the Women's March set the tone for much of what was to come in the next year. By April, the Courier-Times was running front-page headlines titled, "Why America is Ripe for Protests." The protests brought together people young and old with a variety of different backgrounds and concerns. The issue of poverty in the county was especially important for many demonstrators, as social services, including therapy, are increasingly stressed.
Democracy looks like.
This is what democracy looks like.
Show me what a feminist looks like.
This is what a feminist looks like.
In this country, we have some of the worst poverty of any developed nation. According to the UN, more than 1 in 8 U.S. citizens live in poverty. Most of these citizens are women and children. We have the least upward mobility of any wealthy nation. If you were born poor in the United States, you will probably stay poor. The persistence of extreme poverty is a political choice made by those in power. Our government is currently shut down on whether to protect undocumented citizens who serve in our military, who are educated, and who are contributing members of society, and whether billions of dollars should be spent on a wall. Think about that. We should be spending billions of dollars to remove people who have the potential to help the country grow, and many more billions on a symbol of anti-immigration sentiments. We have a lot of things in the United States. We have a lot of things to be proud of in the United States. The number of people taking to the streets yesterday and today are an example of that. We also have a long way to go, and clearly, in so many ways, the decisions that legislators make affect people's lives. Who is making the decisions matters. Elections matter.
Perhaps the biggest focus of the protest was the Me Too movement, which was picking up steam as the month and the year went on. Many protesters described their own personal experience with sexual harassment and sexual assault, along with various other issues of sexism in Bucks County and elsewhere.
We said enough to politicians that are trying to hijack our democracy. While they argue and tweet and try to find the right in something that is so clearly wrong, our children are losing their health care. Our friends and neighbors are being sent back to countries that they will never know as home. We said enough to being objectified and grabbed and exploited, and to being the topic of locker room talk. Because we said enough, I was in the locker room at the Y this week, and everyone around me was talking about where they were marching this weekend.
So what brought you here to march today?
Last year when I was at the march, a lot of guys at my school especially were coming up to me and they're like, "Oh, why are you marching? Women have the right to vote." And I'm like, "Are you kidding me? Like, is that it? It's all kidding me."
Environment, seeing the Trump administration's deregulation as a harm to their communities. They also took aim at Pennsylvania Governor Tom Wolf for approving new pipelines, including the Penn East 2 pipeline and the Mariner East 2 pipeline, which were the subject of many future demonstrations and tree sits in the coming months. Another major topic of the march was climate change and the issues the Trump administration was proposing by cutting regulations and ensuring the continuing construction of pipelines, some of which were approved by Tom Wolf in Pennsylvania, including the Mariner East 2 pipeline and the Penn East 2 pipeline, both fiercely opposed in later months with protests and tree sits.
I see you have something about stopping pipelines. Is there any particular thing you have to...
First, just approved the Penn East pipeline. So we want folks to be aware of that and begin to understand that we're going to need a lot of support to make our voices heard, that we don't want pipelines, any more of them. There's enough now with any catastrophe waiting to happen, but we need just put an end to pipeline in our backyards, and then going under or around or over the Delaware River, which is a supply of drinking water for 17 million people in 4 states.
Foreshadowing the National Gun March a few months later, many students also spoke out at the protests, many of them from ethnic minority backgrounds, warning of the dangers the Trump administration posed to people like them, as well as their trans allies.
And I consider myself so lucky and privileged. I live in a safe area with the most accepting family and friends, and I go to a school where hate incidents are few and far between and not tolerated. The principal, Cheryl Leatherbarrow, has even had conversations with me one-on-one about what we can do to make our school a more positive and less hateful. But I am openly Jewish, pansexual, and a woman, and no matter where you are, how accepting around you the people are, hate is going to find you at some point. And in my opinion, how we deal with it defines us. Because everyone kind of already knows about the issues that they're here for, the dealing with it part is what I want to focus on. Despite what many people think when we speak out in protest, it's not always necessarily because we think we can change the opinions of people high up in the government, because realistically, if a senator or a president is so unconcerned with others' feelings that they support such harmful and discriminatory legislation, you can assume that to them, protests are just a bit of noise that goes through one ear and out the other. That's why it's so important to realize that change doesn't start in the Oval Office or the House or the Supreme Court, because that's not where we feel it most. It starts right here on these streets and in every street, home, and school across the country. We protest and speak out, not primarily so that we can change the minds of the people in office, but those who voted for them. Recognize that poor legislation is not a product of hate. Poor legislation is a product of hate, not the other way around. Laws don't turn people hateful. Presidents don't turn people racist. A lack of education and misguided empowerment does. I don't know about you, but I wasn't shocked when hate crimes increased and things like racism began to reveal themselves more after the election. But that's what happens when you have someone in a position of power spewing hate speech and not being punished for it.
And other sister marches are calling for a collaborative with Me Too and its founder, Tahara Brooke. We are calling for an end to sexual harassment, to shame the fear it causes our communities, our schools, our homes, our workplace, and our streets. For more conversation of consent and pleasure and sexual agenda. We will not let our voices, our stories, and our organizing be stolen by the right-wing conservatives that seeks to demoralize and register our sexuality.
That statement, in all red, has been read at sister marches all across the country today.
Okay. And today I'll be reading Rise Up, an adaptation of a poem written by Royce Mann. Let's rise up! Let's rise up with those overlooked and undervalued by society. The black woman who walks down the street on the way to her job. It's her first day as an 8th grade English teacher. The same black woman with a son, her most prized possession, who told her son that life will be hard but anything is possible.
Respect girls and women's bodies and all people's bodies. Yell, Me Too! Me Too! If you join us in the words of Planned Parenthood in our goal to ensure that sexuality is understood as an essential, lifelong aspect of being human.
In the end, the Women's March and the Me Too movement helped propel a movement of feminism around the world, from Paris to Barcelona to Beijing. By May of 2018, Donald Trump was facing record-low approval ratings for a sitting president at that point in his term, and 2018 was increasingly being dubbed as the Year of the Woman in campaigns and national media. It just goes to show that local expressions of universal grievances can unite people for change in the hope of a better world.
The people united will never be defeated. The people united will never be defeated. All right. We are bringing the girls to the front.
This short documentary is by Hal Conti of the Bucks County Centurion. Thank you for listening, and thank you to Jocelyn, who helped me film some of these videos. I'm signing out.